Ladies and gentlemen, Magnus Carlsen has done it again. You see, a couple of days ago, here in late 2023, Magnus broke the all-time highest elo on chess.com for Blitz, 3,340, eclipsing the previous record by Hikaru Nakamura, which was 3,336. And that's a record that Hikaru held for, I don't know, as long as chess.com has existed, maybe 10 years, I don't know what it is. But Magnus is now 3,340, and in this video, I'm going to show you the streak of games that he played after that to break his own record and hit an all-time high of 3,348. And on this channel, I cover a lot of the great things that Magnus does. I like to cover when he plays lower-rated grandmasters to show you the difference. I like to show you total dominance against his own opposition. I like to show you him playing different openings, right? Sometimes it's a masterclass of how he handles a certain opening a certain way. Well, the truth is we're going to miss him when he's gone. The truth is you all enjoy this content, and I enjoy this content because he makes it look so easy. So let's jump into today's games. I am a bit under the weather. I am almost fully recovered from COVID. This time was very light. Last year I had it much worse. This time I didn't even know I had it. I just, I needed to travel to Toronto, and I figured, well, I should probably take a COVID test. And so I'm almost fully recovered. And these games that I'm about to show you are funny. Like, if there's a way to describe them, it's funny. The first two games are the most disrespectful way you could possibly beat a grandmaster. So here we go. Magnus plays e4. By the way, this rating is already accounted for after the game is concluded. He was 3,340 when this game was played. He's playing a grandmaster I've never heard of in my life. Just your average 2950 GM. Magnus plays the Caro-Kann. And then against the advanced variation, Magnus plays in a very, very, very provocative and disrespectful way. Knight h6. This is stupidity embodied. Like, this is... But Magnus is bored. Do you understand? He's bored. He's so high rated, he has nobody to challenge him on chess.com. For winning against the 3,000, Magnus gets 2 points. Okay? And these guys are not bad players. They know how to play chess. So Magnus voluntarily gives himself bad positions. Do you know why he does that? So that the opening is no longer a factor. Because you see, in chess, if you memorize enough in the beginning of the game, you can force your opponent into very boring territory, very dry territory. And that's not what Magnus likes. So Magnus immediately blows up the center of the board. He damages his structure, blocks his own bishop. He's going to have problems castling for the rest of the game. And now he has to instigate in the center. He tries to win his pawn back. His opponent says no. So Magnus has doubled h-pawns, no g-pawn at all, and is a pawn down. And then he plays this move a6. The idea is just to prevent anything from ever going to b5, right? His opponent plays c3. The idea is to build up b4, so if black plays e6, white plays b4, and is going to have a very comfortable life. Or, we'll see. Now Magnus plays bishop g7, of course, targeting the pawn on e5, and white decides, instead of trying to defend it, right, instead of trying to defend it with the queen, because it's not going to be very easy for white to hang on to that pawn, he says, you know what? Take my pawn. Let's trade. And now white can just castle, but what he chooses is to get aggressive, of course. I mean, look at Magnus's position. Literally looks like a 400 is playing with black. Doubled h-pawns, the king's not going to castle. The bishop is hanging. You got to go back. I mean, this is a fantastic looking position for white. But this is the way Magnus plays these people. I mean, he needs to do something provocative. He needs to do... It's like that song, What is it? No one knows what it means, but it's provocative. It gets the people going, What is it? That's Jay-Z and Kanye. It's got a song title I can't say on YouTube, but good song. It's got a good song. I mean, it's a good song. It's a good vibe, Puts you in the zone. Anyway, my point is, ball so hard. And as far as this game is concerned, taking risks for Magnus is what he has to do. Otherwise, he gets bored. E5. All right? E5 takes the center, defended. Queen G5 takes. Maybe an idea. Magnus, look at this move. Look at this move, knight to E4. You can't take, because then there's a discovered check, and I win your queen. So Magnus has to allow the knight in. He has to be provocative. He's got to get the people going, all right? Bishop F5. Now, ASAP queen trade. So he's got to get the queens off. Now he undoubles that pawn that he doubled from the opening, and we go to an endgame. Now, This is one of the worst looking endgames I've ever seen. White is gonna get a cluster of pawns moving this way. He's got a 4-on-2. Black has passed pawns, but they're not going anywhere. And all of Black's pawns are blocking his bishop, while this knight is gonna stand there like a god. And yet, and Magnus is down 30 seconds. And he's down 30 seconds. Watch. Plays f6. The idea of f6 is simple. Defend everything, bring the king up, slide the bishop back. That's the f6. Every move Magnus makes has a purpose. King f7. Now suddenly, White's trying, look, where did White's advantage even go? Well, the thing is, when you play against Magnus, it's not so easy to capitalize your advantage. Like, apparently the right idea was to be ultra aggressive right away, not giving Black time. But because White was sort of lulled into this, like, I'm just gonna slowly improve my position. Yeah, well, so did Magnus, right? Like, so did Magnus, who now stops you from anchoring your knight, and somehow Magnus is not even worse anymore. In fact, Magnus is calling the shots. Magnus has pieces on their home squares. How is this man in a better position with all of his remaining pieces on home squares? It doesn't make sense. How does he play chess like that? Now, the bishop did move. Remember, the bishop moved, but the pieces haven't done anything. Look at this, b5. Magnus baiting his opponent forward, like waving on the bull, you know? Look at this, he's waving him on. He's galloping into the position. And yet, what's he gonna do? He takes, and now, like a hydraulic press, that channel, there goes d3. And that pawn's a problem because now in comes Magnus. Look at him go. He's breaking down the defenses. He's connected his pawns. e4. And all of a sudden, this is mate. He won that game out of nowhere. And he won the game by 38 seconds. What? I will remind you, when this endgame began, bro was down 30 seconds on the clock. Just straight up down 30 seconds. And in the worst position of the game, he wins the game up 38 seconds. And it's never in doubt. His opponent needed to be more forceful, needed to be, and he missed one chance. And I mean, the effortless nature of how easily Magnus maximizes everything on both sides of the board with pieces on their home squares. I mean, it's just, it's, by the way, the next game is even worse. This is one of the most disrespectful things I've ever seen Magnus do to anybody. Like, seriously. I'm gonna take a sip, just relax, and I'm gonna show this. It's so bad. Okay, look, Magnus plays d4, already plays a sideline. Like, I don't even know what he's doing. I mean, I don't know what this, his opponent goes here. Magnus tries to just get his queen out. So Magnus, like, baited Black into playing a London side, like, system, and now he attacks b7. Of course, Black can defend the pawn, but he doesn't. Black plays gambit in a gambit style. He gambits the pawn, and his logic is, well, this bozo moved his queen. He's gonna have to get out now, and by then, you know, I'm gonna get all my pieces out. So Black is saying, for the cost of a measly little b pawn, I'm gonna have a massive lead in development, right? Fair. Knight f3, knight f6, both guys developing. Now, Black is not playing rook b8 because he doesn't want to lose this pawn. He wants to, you know, maybe finish up his development first. Magnus moves his queen again. Moves his queen again. So Magnus has now made 50% queen moves, but he is a pawn up. Black immediately plays rook b8. Black has a better position, all intents and purposes. He's got much more development, open space, but he has no pawn. So he is a pawn down. Give and take. Now, the next sequence of moves is bogus. Rather than finishing his development with normal stuff like this and this and this, right? Magnus senses he might be under a little bit of threat here, and he plays knight h4. Bro is not developing anything. And now bishop c2 stops the queen's escape. So suddenly the queen can only go that way. And I got news for you. This is the end of the white queen. So Magnus now plays queen a6, another queen move. He's got Black is meanwhile marching into white's territory because all of white's pieces are asleep. That's hanging. So Magnus has to go back. He's played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 moves with these pieces out of 9. He's just worse now. He's not even, not only is he worse, there's bishop b1 and then knight c3 you can't take as you go here. I mean, really, because of this, it's a really bad position for white. Provocative is an understatement. Now Magnus can take another pawn. He doesn't. He plays queen a5. That is yet another queen move. Finally, there is this, and knight takes c3. And that's a problem, because after pawn takes, you lose your rook. And after queen takes, you lose your queen. And it doesn't get any better, because if you try to go here, bishop b4. So Magnus gets punished for his goofiness. I mean, he just doesn't care. Like, dude's like, whatever, I'm gonna beat these people anyway. Like, Black's a grandmaster. You can't mess around. You're gonna get caught. And he does get caught. He gets caught. Dude is just down a queen. I'm not memeing. He's just straight up a queen down. Okay, he has some pieces for it. He has 2 bishops. But this is completely lost for white. Because if you want multiple pieces to play against the queen, what you need is you need like a setup in which you can either exploit weaknesses the opponent has, or you have to have so few pieces on the board, you have a fortress. So if you minimized everything and white had bishop and pawn for a queen, white might survive because you can stop the queen from getting in. But queen's got so much help. There's no way. This is hopeless. Black's just gonna go here, trade. You'll make a couple of trades. You know, if I was playing black, I'd probably trade one of the bishops off rather than the knight. But okay, bishop d2, e3. But you all know what's about to happen. I mean, Magnus just develops his pieces. Castles. Right? Like, bro just doesn't have a queen. Black plays c4. Very simple. Just get all the rest of the pieces and just go after this. Magnus says, no, let's trade off that pawn. I don't like that pawn is encroaching. And Magnus's idea with this is to cut the board in half. If he can get rid of both of these pawns, then they can trade a couple rooks maybe, less weaknesses. I told you, the more pieces you trade, the higher chance you have of making a fortress. But you can't trade too much, and you can't trade too quickly. Queen e7, see? Look, they're trying to trade pawns. Black says no. Magnus activates his rook. Finally, Black waits too long. Magnus says, oh, b4. You gonna take? Big decision. You gonna take? I don't think so. Why would you want to lose a bishop for a rook? That's not a good deal. Now Magnus makes sure he never blunders back rank mate. Magnus is no different than you. He's also worried he might blunder back rank checkmate one day. Rook c2, rook a2, and Magnus just has a fortress. I mean, he's just sort of waiting. Like, dude is, I told you, he just lost the queen in the first 12 moves, and he's like, I'm Magnus, do something about it, bozo. His opponent puts the knight on c4. That looks really smart. I mean, I really like that. That looks really sophisticated. If this, you know, the D pawn's going to become a major problem. So he puts the knight on it. Max says, nope. Just plays g3. Just g3, king g2. Just waiting. Just waiting. He has no weaknesses. Everything in the position is defended except this bishop, but you can't attack it. Black has to win. How's Black going to win? Rook b6. Rook c6. And now, this man Magnus, who should obviously be doing nothing. He should be sitting here and waiting like a good pupil. Opens the position. Against whomst is this man creating counterplay? He's down a queen. Take. Now suddenly his opponent psychologically, wait a minute. Now Max is up 30 seconds. He's up 30 seconds in a blitz game after stalling for so long. H4, rook a5. Oh my god. Magnus is still trying to call the shots. He's playing d5. He damages his opponent's pawn structure, opening up the king. Suddenly here comes the bishop. But rook e7 is a really nice move. Now Magnus might be forced to trade the rooks. He is. Oh, this is really bad. He messed around too much. As you can see, the eval's not very happy either. But he gets that pawn. His pawn is still protected. Everything in white's position is protected, except the rook. Bishop f4, b5. He's creating a fortress. Like, Black's got to get there, but he can't, because he can't go there. So he's going to go bang, 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 maybe. Rook b6. Uh-oh. Now Magnus is going to win a pawn. He wins the outskirt pawn, so now he cut the board in half. I told you this a long time ago. He cut the board in half. Now all the pawns are isolated on one side, and Black's structure is ruined. It's immobile. Now all white has to do is trade rooks, and he gets it. And now, good luck winning. Because how is the queen going to get through this brick wall? None of Black's pawns can help. The only thing that can help is the king. So for example, knight d2, if the black, oh, well, I guess hold on. Let's say something like this. And he tries to help, but everything is protected. You can play king h5 and king g4. It's not going to help. It's not going to help. I'm just going to go here. You can't get close. You try to get close, I just play here. Just play bishop f4. You get close, I play bishop e3. There is f4, so you gotta be a little careful. A little bit careful. Maybe king g2 instead of bishop e3. But that's the point. And guess what? Now Magnus just laughs in his opponent's face. His opponent can't do anything. He had a queen advantage. He can't do anything. And as time is running lower and lower, Magnus starts shuffling. They shuffle. And on the 88th move of the game, his opponent hangs his queen. And you may be wondering why Magnus didn't take the queen here. He was pre-moving. He's just, not pre-moving, but he was just trying to beat his opponent on the clock. So, I mean, this dude straight up played one of the goofiest openings I've ever seen, hung a queen, still wins. Now, what happens when he starts trying? What happens when he starts trying? Oh boy. Okay, Magnus plays a Peert's defense. This is the Peert's defense with black. You try to play b5, counteracting an opponent's queenside castle. Now, white stalls. White doesn't choose to castle yet. He's a little bit hesitant. Magnus does castle, and his opponent attacks him right away. Now Magnus does something very sophisticated. He volunteers a doubling of the central pawns. Doubled, isolated center pawns. But this is actually a lot more potent than it looks because the pawns control 4 very key squares, all right? Like a totem pole. And then they also create openings. So the C file, the E file is open, the key squares for black to make progress in the position. And they remove opponent possibilities. So as long as you protect them, they're actually really, really not so bad. Rook E8, knight F6, knight E4, bishop F5, the position plays itself. This is what happens when he tries, okay? And even then, he's able to create things that are a little bit more exotic. He plays in just a very solid Now I'm German. Plays in a very solid right? He's trying to play in a way that's provocative, but still positionally sound. He got a little bit tired of being a queen down. Now, how's he gonna win? Puts the queen on the active square. Rook E6, Rook E8, doubling up, a lot of pressure building. We have a very tense moment. Now, how is Magnus gonna tip the first domino to fall in his favor? How's he gonna do that? Right? He's got a nice position, but now what? Because you don't want to move something, then you start trading all the pieces. Well, H5. Same side pawn attack, made possible by the fact that black's completely safe from these pieces. This queen's not threatening anybody. The knight can't come forward, right? None of these pieces can come. So white plays C4. Sometimes the best way to meet a strike on the flank is in the center. Pretty good move. It's a very important pawn in the black position. Takes. Now, that's possible, but so is that. You can take both things with the bishop. That move lost you a defender of the knight, but you only lose material if you take with the bishop. What? Why am I speaking in riddles? Take. White is up a knight. Of course, white is winning, but that's not what's going to happen. What? And why is black still better? Well, when you're about to start a sequence like this, where at the end of it, you have a bishop and there's going to be a pin on a major piece like a queen, sometimes mentally, you can take with the more valuable piece. Beginners learn something in chess called capturing with the least value first, which makes sense. You want your lowest value pieces to perish first, so you preserve the higher value pieces. But then you move up in chess, and in chess there's something called superseding concepts. You learn a concept until a point, and then you get advanced. Now it's time to unlearn that concept. Just a little bit. There's exceptions. Rook E4. Why? When all is said and done, before you take, you go back to that concept of lower value, D5. And that's the key. And now you're going to take that rook for sure. Now, if there was a check here, that wouldn't be possible. It's very important that you can't move the rook. If the king was here, none of this works, because rook E8 is check and I can't take the queen. But Magnus doesn't even have to take. Look at this flex. Defending his queenside structure, pressure on that, pressure on that. Finally, he takes. And now the queen can get the pawn in the center as well. When it's all said and done, Magnus is a pawn up. And watch how he cuts through this like a fine slice of beef. Bishop to E4. Threatens checkmate on G2. Light squared weakness has been created. The missile is ready to launch. A5, a key move, stopping anything from happening on the queen side, and this cannot be taken because you would take your eyes off the E3 square. Queen F5, repositioning complete. Queen goes to F1. Queen goes immediately back to E4 now that the queen took its eyes off. That's a threat, that's a threat, that's a threat. And white resigns because he's gonna lose his knight, and then obviously he will lose the game as well. And this was all out of a complete game where Magnus actually tried, did not lose a queen in the first 10 moves, created a slightly imbalanced central pawn formation, simply improved the positioning of every single one of his pieces, and the second that his opponent tried to pipe up, Magnus said, sit down. Rook E4. D5, and that's it. We just go straight to a queen bishop versus queen knight endgame. There's nothing you can do to me. And the last one. Another game where Magnus tried. Right, like, you know, he could be down a queen. He doesn't have to try. He gets bored playing on equal terms. He's been playing this opening recently, which literally, again, I would tell beginners never to play. You see, a lot of you think like this. You go, oh, you know, when I'm playing, I'm like 800. I like to play a little Italian, maybe fried liver. And then your opponent plays C5 and you go, oh, you know, knight F3, knight C6, I'm playing the Italian. A lot of you learn chess in the way that, like, if you get a hammer in your hands, you just think everything is a nail. Oh, why is that screw not going in? Because this is not the Italian. Because black can play E6 and D5. But superseding concepts, that's a concept that exists for many people, but when you're Magnus, you don't care. Like, watch, because he's gonna put his bishop back a square. And then he's gonna put his bishop there in many positions. Maybe not in this game, but in many positions. So the point is, you learn things in chess to a point, and then you can unlearn that stuff. You can do whatever you want. But you have to earn the ability. You have to earn the level. You have to earn the respect to start breaking those principles. D4. For example, I go to boxing. I'm never going to fight southpaw. I'm just not. Switching stances is very useful if you're a good fighter. But I'm like 600 at boxing, so I don't need to fight southpaw yet, right? CD. CD. Also, boxers don't really switch stances. Not a huge amount, I don't think. D5. E5. Knight BD2. We have a very tense central moment here. Black decided not to take the knight, which would have been a fair trade. Black decided, I'm going to let you take my knight. What that's going to do is it's going to unclog the D file. It's also going to open up my bishop. So the Grandmaster said, Magnus, I don't think you want to make this trade. Magnus said, I'm Magnus, because that's just how I imagine Magnus just speaks like an NPC. He speaks like a Pokemon. You know how Pokemon just say their own names? I feel like if you meet Magnus, you're like, Magnus, what are your thoughts on this? He's just like, I'm Magnus. And like, that's it. He's just Magnus Carlsen. And you're like, oh, well, yeah, that makes sense. Like, you know, in Pokemon, the Pokemon goes, Pikachu? And you're like, oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, no, I completely understand your positioning on that geopolitical issue. Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, knight A5, Magnus is attacked, rook G4. Now, yeah, black does have a lot of open lines. Absolutely. But so does white. We're positioning the rook directly against the pawn that is only protected by the black king. Knight takes B3, now a classy move. This is what we call in chess a Zwischenzug. Before you take this back, you play an in-between move that frequently either captures something or creates a stronger threat. Boom. That is worth more than the bishop and the rook, because you're going for the king. Instructive, by the way, you could take with the bishop, but this is force mate, because there's no way to protect that. Queen D3 is game over because of F5, of course, on façon. Passons. There we go. Right? G6. Now he doesn't take the rook. The idea of bishop H6 was just to weaken the squares. Now he takes the knight. And then he plays H3. H3 is a weird move. Why would he play H3? Was that a mouse slip? Was he trying to play H4? H3 might have been a mouse slip. Because I gotta tell you, this looks pretty damn good. But, gotta live with it. Or maybe there was an idea. Maybe the idea was knight here, knight here, knight here. Ooh, but he could have done that with the pawn here too. So maybe he mouse slipped. I don't know. Queen D2. Look at black trying to create counterplay. Black's not letting Magnus live. Black knows it's just a matter of time. Magnus repositions. Trying to put his queen there. Trying to put his knight on G5 and then maybe go back to playing H4. There it is, knight G5. Now, this is never going to happen because you're going to walk in and get butchered on the dark squares. There's the queen. Oh my, look at this masterful positioning. While defending against mate, while defending the center, this rook's just having a smoke. He's like, yeah, you guys are good, man. You guys are doing a great job. You guys are doing awesome. I don't even have to. Okay, now he moves. Because maybe you're going to take the bishop to deflect the queen. Maybe you're going to play rook c5, whatever you're going to do. Maybe the rook's just going to sneak in. Now, to black's credit, black manages to relinquish a lot of white's pressure. Get rid of a lot of it. I guess knight e4, Magnus maybe missed queen e4. Maybe he should have gone here first, and then the computer was just like bludgeoning. But he goes here, and Magnus is like, you know, like, at the end of the day, I'm Magnus Carlsen, and I can win an endgame. So he loses the pawn on b2, but how does black make a move? He can't move his f-pawn or his rook or his bishop or his king. So all white's got to do is get another rook to the back rank, and it's over. So black starts pushing. Time is of the essence. Rook stops the pawn. Okay, the pawn can't go forward anymore. Now you could play rook b1 here, but then I would just play king f1, right? I would get a king closer, and you wouldn't be able to do anything. But instead of that, sensing the pressure, black decides to solve his problems right now. He could have been a little bit more patient. The computer gives g5, take, lose your rook, and then try to like survive this, and apparently it's a draw because of this, there's rook b1 check. Black misses that, plays f6. Magnus takes, and now, feeling the heat, black decides to make a run for it. And unfortunately, Magnus embarrasses that king and forces it to walk the plank. Rook a7, takes, bishop g7. Suddenly, the king realizes, wait a minute, I have a very limited option of squares. King f5, rook e5, uh-oh, that's my only remaining square, and now, checkmate in 2, we finish by forcing the king to walk the entire length of the f-file to the f3 square, where it will perish with rook to e3, checkmate. Out of nowhere. That was like going to an endgame for a second, and then just a clean win. Black could have defended if he was Stockfish, but he's B-Water BL, so, you know, I don't, cool name, but probably stands for something like BL. Is there a grandmaster in the world, BL? And this is how Magnus broke the all-time high that he just set of 3,348. Now, the crazy thing is they played again, and Magnus actually lost the next game, and he lost 15 rating points. Magnus is playing games against these 2950, 3,000 rated GMs. If he wins, he gets 2 rating. If he loses 15. He has to beat them 7 times to 1 to get the points back. It's crazy. It's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. All I have for you today. Very fun to watch him play these games. And tomorrow, if you're watching here in late December, the Champions Chess Tour finale starts. So it's going to be a week of rapid chess, blitz chess, to determine who's the Champions Chess Tour winner of 2023. Magnus playing Hikaru Fabiano, so we'll see if Magnus can take some of this momentum into that event. That's all. I'm going to go rest my throat. Get out of here.